So here's the deal. Monique, like Monique said, we've been friends for a long time. And the last thing that I think, she's saying all this stuff that's in my bio, and somebody wrote that, so it's pretty good. It's not me. But first of all, I love to laugh. I spent 16 really amazing years at GE, but it's a very buttoned up traditional workplace, so we didn't laugh a lot. Not because we weren't allowed, but just because we kind of took ourselves too seriously. And maybe we'll get to talk about how we're paying the price for some of that. Because if you follow what's happening with GE in terms of a business model, you can see what it means to be great and then what it means to pursue things that aren't always the righteousness of God, and then how you can pay the price for it. But if you stay under the covering, how God can move you out of some things. So here's what I'll start with. I've been thinking about this ever since I got an email to be invited to come. I've been praying about it. I've come up with like 50 different things to talk about, and this morning, none of them landed. So the only thing I can leave you with, and then I promise that won't be the end of it, is that I'm a vessel. And I use the gifts and the talents and the skills and the influence and the places where God sends me to do causal work that changes lives, communities, and the world. That's what I believe my calling is, whether it's my calling in my family, in my friendships, in the work that I do. But at the end of the day, I'm just a vessel. And so that means I have to go where God sends me, and I have to do the work that he calls me to do. So I have the degree, and I've got credentials. But the secret is, most of the time when I show up in the room, I don't always know what I'm doing, but I just stay surrendered and allow God to use me as a vessel. It doesn't mean that you don't get the grades and you don't study. I mean, that does matter. I do know how to strategize and build business models and all kinds of things like that. But a lot of times when I first get in there, I'm the COO of Wikipedia. We've never even had a COO. We have 1.5 billion people that come to our device every single day, right? And if you put that in perspective, it's, for me, about 300 million people use Twitter every month. About 250 million people use Instagram every month. 1.5 billion people or devices touch Wikipedia every single month. I don't know how to fix that. I just know how to be a vessel. And so when I think about all of the experiences and the places where God has sent me and the things that I've been able to do, I picture this vessel. It's a really nice one. I like nice things, so maybe it's glass and blue and silver and I don't know, but a pretty vessel. And there's a bunch of things inside of it, and all of those things make up the stories or the experiences that I think can be tips or warnings or inspirational things that I can share with you. And so I've written a bunch of them in this bag, and I'm gonna let you pick, and you guys can pick, and I guarantee you I have some sort of story or experience or notes or takeaways that you can write down or put in your mindset. But there's a couple things that will come as a result of it all. And the overarching theme that I want you to know is that we're all vessels, and we're called, and we're chosen, and we each have an assignment. And the best experience that you'll have, whether it's in school, out of school, wherever you break through in this journey, it'll be when you realize what that assignment is and what you're called to do. Because once you understand that and what God is really setting you up to do, it's going to be easy to say, well, not easy because we are flesh and we want to do what we want to do, but it will be easier to know what to say yes to, what to say no to, and then how to guide and direct and walk the path. For me, I know for a fact that I'm called to the secular workplace. I know that. I love the workplace. the internet is hard. I'm not sure I love that right now. It's very hard. It's spiritual warfare, and it's really difficult. So I need some different tools for this work. But I love the workplace. I love solving problems. I love business models. I love all of that stuff. It is my jam, budgets, that kind of stuff. Like, I'm serious about it. So I know that my calling is in the workplace. I've known it since I was a kid. I didn't know what it would mean. I used to see my mom go to work. I just knew I wanted to drink coffee and wear perfume and carry a briefcase, because my mom did that. And I was just like, oh my God, her breath smells like coffee. She smells like perfume. And she would lean over in the morning to say goodbye to me before she would go to work. And she had these nice suits. I had no idea what she did. And I was like, but I want to do that. So I've always had a passion and a desire. I didn't know at the time that I would be a servant leader, that my salvation and my love for God would put me in all of these rooms and all these places where showing up had so much less to do with the actual work and the skill set and much more to do with who he wanted me to represent and what he wanted me to do in the room. So ultimately, again, know that your calling and what you're chosen to do will be the overarching reason that you get in every room. You're going to think, oh, I did great, so I just got promoted. You got promoted because God wanted you in that room, because trust me, I did great every year, and I never got promoted. I got promoted so many times less than I ever didn't get promoted. Like, not getting promoted is what I'm really good at. And so, obviously, that's not in line, right? You do great work, you get promoted. Not me. So I got in the room, and then I'd get promoted and get in a room, and everyone would be like, wait a minute, like, now you just like leaped 7 feet. Like, how did that happen? Because that was the room that God wanted me to be in. But then how was I going to show up, and what was the work that I was going to do in that room? So do you want to dig into some stories? Do you want to see what's in the bag? Okay, so who wants to pick? I'll let you pick one. Pick something good. No, it's all good. I'm kidding. I think it's... All right, what's on that one? Abide. Oh, wow. That is a good one. Okay, so we started this thing, my friends and I, where we would pick a word that we would focus on for the year. We were not doing well with resolutions. I mean, I'm still working on the 10 pounds that I've been working on since I was 10 years old. So there's just no need for me to write that down anymore. So it's like, I'm not over it, but it's still on the list. But we just decided, my friend Rachel said, why don't we think of a word that we want to focus on for the year? And that is a word that we will lean into in every area of our life, in our work, with our families, with some of the personal things that we wanted. And we did that for a few years. And then we just stopped doing it for like 3 or 4 years. And I hadn't really thought much about it. And one of my mentors said to me last week, and she, I was talking to her about some things in the way that the year ended, and she's like, I really think you need to think about a word for the year. And I thought that was so funny. I was like, hey, I used to do this with my girlfriends. So what came to me was the word abide. And I believe that the Holy Spirit gave me that word. But I'll tell you what it means to me in terms of my career in the workplace. I feel like the business world, the secular business world, is very tumultuous. I don't know the Christian business world, but I've heard from some of my mentors that it can be just as challenging there. But it's very tumultuous. The internet in itself, or the tech industry, if any of you are in tech or plan to work in tech, it is a very different beast, because there's so much to the comics and the video games and the things that are going on underground in the coding world. Don't let anyone tell you that those things are nothing. It's just fun. It's just something to do. They're not. It is 70% of the people that work for me are coders or programmers, probably are very much on the spectrum, are fans of witchcraft and Harry Potterisms and all kinds of things like that. And those are the spirits that run the internet. They're about 1% of the world, and the number 1% is an important number to me for a lot of reasons. If somebody picks that, I'll tell you about it. But they're about 1% of the world, and that world is feeding all of the information that you pull up every single day, things that you listen to, look at, think about, right? Wikipedia is everywhere. It's on Alexa, it's Google. Google buys our content. It's Siri. And so the world is shaping what they want you to hear, what they want you to experience, what they want you to know. And that's not happening by Christians. And so the word abide for me is very important because I need so much to stay connected spiritually in the space that I'm living and working in. I'm surrounded most of the time by forces that are meant to tear me down. So when I'm abiding, it's just making sure that what I believe it means for me this year is making sure that I'm very intentional in my prayer life, in the scriptures that I lean into. The same way we have our favorite quotes and everything. What are my work scriptures? What are the scriptures that I'm going to lean into? How am I going to be honest with other people that I trust spiritually to say, this is what's happening and this is what I want you to cover me in? And then what am I just going to pray in our workplace about? I have this thing that I do at work. I'll tell you what it is first, and I'll tell you what my friends say, because they're comics. So I have this thing where I pray in my workplace, and I don't know if in your church experience you've had, you've heard of like holy oil, but I come from traditional charismatic Black church, and we lay hands on everything, and we pray over things in a very exuberant way, I'll say. If you've never been to a Black charismatic church, I'll use the word exuberant. And so I would take holy oil and I would walk around the offices where I worked, and I would pray in my staff's rooms or in our conference room and things like that at night, like when nobody was there. One of my friends reminded me one day, she was like, don't you think they have security cameras and they're probably watching you? Like, do you think that matters? And I was like, I hadn't thought about that, but point taken. But I pray in the workplace, in the rooms where I work, in the conference rooms, for the meetings, for everything that's going to take place in there. And the word abide, again, is something that I want to think about and look at every day, because I want it to remind me that those are practices that God has given me a leadership opportunity to do, because that's a part of my calling. That's why I have this job, not because I'm a great COO. I'm not a bad one, but that's not why I have this job. I have this job because I'm called to lead spiritually in this workplace. And one of the things that I need to do that well is this connection to this word. So abide is that word. And I want my staff, the 400 plus people that work for me, to know, whether I get to tell them directly or they just kind of hear about it, because they'll say things like, yeah, we heard you're super religious or whatever. I want them to know or experience and feel a presence that I know, because I can ensure that it gets in the room. So abide helps me think about that. So the lesson from that is, you're going to need a word. You're going to need a lot more, but we could start with a word. And use that as an anchor and something for you to stay connected to. It could change. You don't have to be so regimented about it. But it's something that you're going to need to lean into. And trust me, if you don't think you need it today, just know that this vessel, who has been through a lot, is telling you you're going to need it. Just get in front of it. Okay, is that good? All right, next word. Anybody? I don't want to walk up the steps too far. There we go. What's your name? Emily, nice to meet you. Oh, I go to church. So church is important to me. First of all, I was raised in the church, so that's all I know about Sunday mornings is church. And that's all I know about Tuesday nights is choir rehearsal and youth group. And but here's my story with church. I move about every 2 years. I live a lot of places. That sometimes can sound very exciting. It is challenging. I encourage you, if you join an organization that allows you to move and relocate and be different places, if it works for you, for your family, for your life, it's a great way to move in your career, if that's important to you. It's a great way to take on diverse assignments. I've done some of the most amazing things because I was willing to go. But in that, there are some challenges, right? I leave my family. I have 11 or 12 nieces or nephews. I don't remember, something like that. And so I'm not at all this stuff. My best friends have been my best friends for over 30 years. Two of them, they both live in Jersey. I don't get to see them often. I don't get to see the crew of people that I hang out with. I don't get to go to the home church that I've been connected to, that I helped build like 28 years ago. And yet, everywhere that I do go and everywhere that I do move, the very first thing that God always gives me is a church. Every time. I don't even know how sometimes. But every single time I land somewhere, I end up fellowshipping at the best ministries that have changed my life, that I think have made me a better leader, a better person of prayer. Sometimes I just mess it up really bad. But being in fellowship and being in church is so important for me. And it's so important for my career and my workplace experience. Because I have that day, and maybe sometimes that small group, I don't get to participate in a lot of things because of my travel and my work. But when I am around, I have that experience. I have that accountability. Somebody is looking for me to show up, even if it's just an email that says, "Are you in town?" I'm in town this weekend. Oh, okay, then are you going to be at church? And so I feel that I'm being held accountable, and the fellowship of that community is what gets me through some of the most difficult of times. I spent the past decade away from my family, and during that time, my father has died. His two brothers has died. His sister has died. My mother's sister has died. We've lost the entire layer of our family of elders. My mom's 88 now. My aunt just turned 89. But that whole layer of our family is gone. And the next generation is myself and my cousins and all of us. We're the people that are like in charge. I don't want that. I want my dad and my uncles and my family. I want those stories and those questions I didn't know I needed to ask them at that time. But a lot happened in this decade. And yet, in every one of those experiences, I can link to the church that I was a part of. Whether it was the church where we buried, where we held these funerals, or the church that I was a part of in Africa that taught me how to fast and pray through the most difficult of times. Because in Africa, all you have is it's desperate times, and so they approach prayer and God very differently. Or my church in upstate New York, which was not a diverse community. It was one of the first times I'd been to a church that didn't look exactly like me, and just feeling accepted and having an experience there. So church is important to me, and if I don't do that, it has an impact on the work that I do. So I'm linking all of this back to the fact that if I show up in a room, people say, she's the COO of Wikipedia, but what I really am is this church girl, which allows me to be that. Or this girl that's leaning into the word abide, which makes me a better COO. Is that one good? If it's not, you could say no. My feelings would be hurt, but oh, really? I was going to say, could you meet me halfway, dude? No, don't move. He's coming this way. What's your name? Trey. Trey? Yes. Oh, wow. I call my nephew Trey. Are you the, third person? Is it a nickname, or?
It's like...
Because my nephew's like... Yeah, help me out here. See what happens when I try to work the aisles? Okay, what's yours say?
Bible.
Bible app. Okay. So do y'all use the Bible app like on your phones and all? Like I use the Bible app because I need the Word of God. So that one's on there because it's my go-to for everything. It's on my phones. I keep it close to me. I sometimes will have it in a meeting open to like a scripture or something to calm me. I find that when I'm moving fast and I need to, and I'm feeling really just misaligned or disconnected, and I don't know what to read, I don't know what to pray, I don't know anything. I mean, I know at least if I just open that, they're going to at least give me the scripture of the day. That app it works to do that. So if I can't get anything else right, I can at least get the scripture of the day, and I'm going to read that, and something is going to help reset me. That's my tool. Doesn't have to be yours, but I like it. I like it because I can pop it open anywhere. I can keep it close to me, and so it's a tool that I use to reset me as a Christian in the workplace. There's some business stuff in here too somewhere, but it seems like this is what y'all need to hear. What's your name? Graham. Graham. 1%. There we go. Boom. The 1%. So this number, I'm going to talk about this number as it relates to me, you, some stuff going on at Wikipedia, some problem solving, everything. I'm doing a talk now about 1%, and we're shaping it in a bunch of different audiences. But here's the deal. The fact that y'all are even just up on this mountain, having this session, meeting all of these people, having people talk to you and share experiences with you, puts you in a community of 1%ers. I'm not talking about it from an elitist standpoint. I'm talking about it from a perspective of experiences and things that you have that other people don't have. My brother tells me this all the time when I'm like, oh yeah, we just did this. He's like, no, people don't do that. That's just what you do. That's what you and your friends do. That's not like what everybody out here is just doing. And that's what I'm saying. This place is really important for you to understand how different it is to be in the university that you're a part of, to have an opportunity to even be educated, to get a degree, the percentage of people that get degrees, that get advanced degrees, to even be able to sit at this year, whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, in your academic experience and be able to have a conversation about what your future as a leader can look like, puts you in like a 1%. The same thing goes for me, even as an African American. In my world, I'm a 1% of people that had different experiences, that got to go to college, got to have all these different life experiences. My parents have 4 children. I'm probably in a little bit of a different percentage of my siblings because of some of the things that I've done and experienced in places that I've lived, right? It's not to say I'm better. It's to say this percentage of people, all of us in this room, are having some different experiences. And what I would say to that is that to whom much is given, much is required. You're in this room and you're getting opportunities. You're going to be in workplaces and you're going to get opportunities. You're going to get mentors and have experiences. And so much is going to be required of you. What are you going to do with the doors that are open for you? Every one of you that will choose to go into the workplace are going to have an experience that I wish I could like unfold it and tell you what it would look like. To be in a room where you all will get to one day, if it's what you want, where you're sitting on the top floor in this grand conference room with all these decision makers. And you are a person that gets to decide. whether someone gets hired or fired, or whether a company makes a business move and changes the way that healthcare is delivered for a part of the world, or whether you're going to make a decision that is a right decision, but it's not a righteous decision. That is hard. That is something that I have to look at every single day. God, help me to do the things as I put on the armor of God that are the righteousness of God. Because it is really okay for you to just do the right thing. The right thing is pretty good. Your stock price is going to go up. Company's going to make money. You're going to get your OKRs done. Probably going to get promoted. You might get a bonus. And all you have to do is the right thing. In some cases, you can do the wrong thing and get it. But God doesn't call us to do the right thing. He's calling us to do the things that are righteous. And the thin line between the two of those is something that you'll only know if you abide, if you stay surrendered, if you're leaning into some of the tools and the people in the communities and the church and the places that God sends you to so that you can show up and do work differently. I've been in a room with 1% of decision makers where no one looked like me, no one had an experience like me. Most of the people in that room thought I shouldn't be there. Some of them tried to kick me out. I've had doors closed in meetings that I've set up with heads of state where it's like, well, you got us here, but you don't need to come in. I've had my shoes scuffed real bad because I always stick my foot in the door. I will get myself in a room. They mess up my shoes, though. I get to wear sneakers now because I work in tech, so that's cool. But I've had that happen to me. We're setting up this meeting, got these people in the room. We've got President Obama in there. We've got the president of Ghana. We've got all these different people in the room. And it's like, Janeen, we're good from here. And I'm like, what? This is my meeting. I've done the research. I've done the work. I've pulled all the people together. It's our product. I have part of the patent on the product. This is literally our work. I can't explain to you how much I sleep in the bed with this V-scan. This is what I've been doing with my life for the past 10 years. This is all, one of my nieces, all she knows is V-scan because she was born when this was happening in my life. That's all first V-scan, 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 that's all she knows. And no GE, no conference call. Those were like the first things she would say in the call. No conference call when I would pick her up to play with her. So when I walk in the room, I'm like, no, this is my meeting and I deserve to be here. And I'm going to show up. Because much has been given to me, and I wanted to show up and deliver and show what could be required of me. Now, it meant upsetting a lot of people and disrupting a lot of stuff that really shouldn't have been disrupted. But when you get to be in that room, what will you do with the power? What will you do with the influence? What will you do with the space that God has given you? So what I did in that particular instance was I got in the room, but then I also said, and you all should be a part of this as well. When what I really wanted to say was, this is my meeting, none of y'all need to be here. Get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. But instead I'm like, take your photos, everybody shake hands, do all this wonderful stuff. Because I have nothing to lose at that point. I have nothing to prove. I have nothing to be taken away from me. So what will we do with the 1% of the experience, the influence, and the doors that we can open? You're going to be in that room one day. What are you going to do? Are you going to open the door and let the right people in the room? Are you going to expose someone that's been a part of your team that someone else says probably doesn't deserve to be there? Are you going to use the experiences that you have to do something very, very different? The other thing about the 1% is that number is literally a reflection of the world that writes Wikipedia. So we're in more than 300 languages now, millions of articles that are written by about 300,000 people. And so there's a whole mystery, like you can't just write on Wikipedia. It just doesn't work that way. People think it's that way, it's not. Wikipedia shouldn't be your only resource, it's one of many. The more citations that you see in an article, the heavier weight that it has, the more valid it is. But you can't just write something today, Graham, and then boom, it's on Wikipedia. It doesn't work like that. There is an affiliate and a community and a group of people that set watch over the content of Wikipedia. Now, some of that is a good thing because when it comes to trust and safety and the internet, you want to be mindful of the hurt, the harm, the damage that you can cause to others. So that's important to do. The other side of that is that 1% of the world is controlling content and information that's going to 1.5 billion people in the world. That is not good. That group of people look very much the same. They feel like, from a privileged perspective, they own the right to tell everyone's story. They feel like they can be responsible for an experience, and no one can tell these stories but you. And so 1% of the world cannot tell the entire world's story, and that is something that I'm very committed to during my time at Wikipedia. I believe it's one of the reasons that I'm called to be there, is to change the paradigm in who tells the stories for the world and how free knowledge is presented to the world. And so much is required of me because much has been given to me. What will I do on this platform at Wikipedia? I don't know Christians in my workplace. They know that I'm a Christian. I don't know how long God will allow me to lead there because I'm just there for as long as he wants me to be a vessel there. But for the time that I am there, I know that I have a responsibility to learn these things so that I can share them with the righteous world so that we can be praying for them, right? There was a quote that I had when Rick sent us an email welcoming us for this. He said, the world, I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, the world needs Christ-focused business leaders that won't be afraid to bend the knee and bow to the one true and living God. So I'm totally paraphrasing, but that was what it said in the email when he was welcoming us to be here the other day. And I read that, and I immediately put it in my phone under some things that I like to refer to when I'm reminded why I'm in this place and why I'm here. And yes, I have to do ops. I have to get a lot of the way that we work as an organization. A part of my job is to create a more efficient experience. We run a budget of over $120 million. People have left us their life savings, $8, $10 million. We have a responsibility to use this money in a way that impacts free knowledge in a right way. But I can't do any of that unless I am aware and connected and doing all the other things about, in terms of who I am spiritually. Monique, maybe keep me honest on my time because I don't know how much time I have. Okay. Oh, you got it. What's your name? Nathan. Hi, Nathan. No, okay. Expat. Africa. Oh, global. Okay. So this is my something that I'd love for you to consider when you move into the workplace. I would really love if it aligns with what you all want to do in your careers if you consider a global assignment. Taking on a global assignment is a game changer in your career, in the way that you lead, in the way that you solve problems. When you're working in different communities of the world, you will come back into your workplace and you will solve problems in a very different way. You will analyze situations in a very different way. You'll approach your colleagues in a very different way. Having exposure to the way that you'll be forced to work when you live someplace like Bangladesh or Indonesia or even the UK. My assignments were in some pretty emerging marketplaces, but all of them will expose you to market issues, risk issues, business platforms that will be completely different, and they will give you an edge that your colleagues may not have. And so if that's of interest to you, if that's something that you consider, I strongly promote it. I've been working overseas since 2008. My first trip to Africa was a missions trip. I went with Doctors Without Borders. I was on a missions trip. But I first went overseas for GE in 2008, where I started working on some healthcare and water solutions, which morphed into a career and a job opportunity. And whenever people at GE would ask me, like, how'd you get this job? I'm like, the process just doesn't exist, because it didn't. Literally, we had an opportunity. I spent some time there. I knew a lot about our healthcare equipment. That was my job. I headed up a service business within GE Healthcare. So I was responsible for teams of engineers that serviced our healthcare equipment, like our CAT scans and our X-ray units and things like that. So I knew our products well. So when we went to Africa, they were like, we want you to help us understand how our products can work well in Africa. When I came back, I was like, oh, our products are not gonna work there at all, for lots of reasons. One, we try to hook them up to a power source. Boom, we take out the whole Masai Mara. If we do this, this is gonna happen, all kinds of stuff. Our water filtration system cannot purify a unit that is so close to the ocean. The desalination process is impossible. The technicians don't have the same capacity to understand how to use our magnetic resonance machines. I mean, try setting up an MR machine in this space, just getting it there. So what we did was I said, what I've learned is that they won't work there, but there's a market for us if we can make it tiny and make it miniature. So this is on a different card, but I'll tell you the story of Vscan. So that's what we did. We reverse engineered ultrasound, and we made it handheld. And it really looks a lot like a toy that my nephew was playing with at the time, like those PlayStation things. That was kind of a part of the idea of how we got it together. And then we put all of the technology in a probe that looked kind of like this. Normally with ultrasound, it's a big box machine, and all the technology's in the middle, and then they just use the probes to capture the images. Instead, when we make it handheld, you put all the technology in the probe, but you can only do a few things. And all we needed ultrasound to do is 5 things. And I was living in this village in a palm. Yeah, I would never do that again. But that was not, yeah, that was, yeah, I don't know that we would let anyone do that again. But we did, and I lived out there, and at night, the midwives would come, because I was studying with these midwives, and they would come and, Madame, the baby's coming, the baby's coming. I'd jump up, baby's coming. And I'd go out, and they'd be delivering these babies, in the bush. And, I'm looking at what they needed to know to deliver a baby and where they were having the most problems. And the science of having a baby is all I know about having a baby. But I know the science really well. Never had one, but I know the science well. And what we narrowed it down to is that if we want to get a mom and a baby home in a rough environment, in an environment where we don't have power, electricity, we may just have a big box or a room where they're having a baby, or maybe just, I know this sounds so extra, but it's really true, just like under a tree or something, because that's where they were having babies. We need to know how pregnant you are. We need to know the position of the baby. Is it feet first, head first? We need to know where the cord is. Is it here? Is it here? We need to know what's in the placenta, like is it infected, is it healthy? And we could know the gender, but that's very dangerous, particularly when we're in India and different places. So we don't have a way to not tell, we won't teach you how to know the gender, but we could see it, and eventually people would learn how to do it. But that's what we put into Vscan. And then we took that product to places like Indonesia and Bangladesh. We worked with Muhammad Yunus and all kinds of folks, and we started testing it. And we did these studies all across Tanzania and different places to see, could we solar power it? And it worked. And my jankiest work was building a solar unit in Tanzania and hooking Vscan to it, and it worked. I mean, it wasn't properly rated by, any resource in the world, but it worked over there. And we just kind of like had this huge panel, and yeah, I wish I could show you a picture, but it worked. And it's interesting when you bring like the CEO of your business in that's used to seeing all this buttoned up stuff in these beautiful hospitals like New York Presbyterian, and then he gets there and he's like, is our machine hooked up to like a tree and getting solar power? I'm like, yeah, it works. And so we would start scanning people, and we were testing the product, and it was working. And we as a company couldn't say that we were saving lives because we're too deep pocket. So if we didn't save a life and we got sued, so we literally can't say that. But now that I don't work there anymore, I'm telling you this product literally was saving lives. We could say that we impacted lives. That's what we were allowed to say. But every day I would go home or go back to this place where I was sleeping, and then eventually I upgraded to like a hotel and all that good stuff. And I could say, we are saving lives. We are really doing good work. And it's because I'm an engineer and I understand the mechanics of ultrasounds and how they work. It's because we worked with a really powerful, great, diverse team of scientists and technologists that wanted to help figure out how to reverse engineer. It's because God put me in a room because I was abiding and I was being a vessel and I was following his plan for me. And I got put into a room that I never should have been in with Jeff Immelt, Mike Barber, the chief technology officer of our healthcare business. And literally they were in a meeting and they were like, well, you know, we just want to save the world. And I was like, oh, we don't do that. And everybody turned around. I was like, what do you mean we don't do that? And I was like, I didn't say that. I'm not even supposed to be here. But that's how it started. Because we don't do that. I was like, our products only save this percentage of the world. We don't save the billions of people that are in other environments. And that is what I did as a 1% that made it into that room. So you see how these are all linking together? Everything that I'm telling you is all linking together. I was 1% of any one of my colleagues that would ever get into one of those rooms and have that conversation. I mean, I was more worried about like what I had on that day, but I still got to make a big decision in that room, which landed me as an expat in Ghana, where I went to this amazing church that taught me prayer and intercession and fasting and how to be desperate for God. And then I showed up at work and got to open up doors for people in Africa and around the world that had studied, and they got to work for a great multinational company. And we got to solve really big problems and do great work. But I'm just the vessel, because eventually I had to leave, hardest day of my life. Because that's a part of the process that God has for me. He takes me into places, I lead, I learn, and then he always makes me leave. And breaking up is the hardest thing for me to do in life. And it's probably, I think it's because of all the loss the tragedy that I endured in losing my dad and so many members of my family. I don't like goodbyes. But leaving is a big part of my calling. And when I'm not obedient to that, I usually end up messing up in a space. So learning to know when God is shifting you, even when everybody else is like, no, go this way, you're gonna be great, you're gonna get promoted, you're gonna do all this great stuff. No, I'm gonna take sabbatical, it's time for me to go. Are you crazy? We're trying to do this 20,000 women by 2020. It was women in tech, because we have more than 20,000 women at GE, but we wanted 20,000 women in the technical space, because Mark Zuckerberg, Mr. Zuckerberg, was doing something similar to that. And we had this big discussion, and it was like, you know, he was like, Facebook is going to get it right. We were like, no, GE's going to get it right. Everybody's getting it wrong. That's a different ticket in the bucket, maybe, to talk about women in tech. But that's how all of this kind of linked together. And then eventually I had to leave from there, and it landed me here at Wikipedia. Okay. Do I have time for one more? Okay. 5 minutes. Okay. I hope this is helping, and if it's not, it'd be better if you tell me so that I don't do this again. Or don't do it like this. Got it? Okay. We'll make this one short. Okay. Oh man, that's more than 5 minutes, but okay. She said, The Adventures of Little Bit and Friends. Monique is smiling because she knows this. So I'm Little Bit. My dad called me that my entire life, up until the day he died. And I was 40 when my dad passed away, 41. So my father's always called me Little Bit. And my father encouraged me to, I told my dad when I grew up I wanted to save the world. And my dad told me to save it and not come back until I was done. He used to always tell me, save the world, oh, you can do it, you can do it. And I didn't really know what it meant at the time. But what I did, after my dad died, I was trying to write him a letter, I think, through the grief process. And I ended up writing a story. I remembered something because my dad used to take me on these adventures in my head. Or like, you know, when I was a Girl Scout, we sold like the most Girl Scout cookies, but he made it this adventure, and we'd be like flying through our town, dropping off cookies in his truck. And I started writing these stories about my dad. And what I did was, I took my adult life and my global travels and all the places that I've lived and my international group of friends, and I made them children. And I went back to all my friends, and I'm like, to my friend Prachi, if you were a little girl, what would you want her to look like? How would she engage? And we created all these characters. And the Adventures of Little Bit and Friends is are stories about me and my friends in all of the places that I've been as an adult. But we messed them up because I'm a nerd, I'm quirky, I'm that kid that always trips over their shoes. I have toilet paper stuck to my foot. I used to have, tape on my glass. I was that kind of a kid. I try to glam it up now, but like that was kind of the way I was. And Little Bit is quirky, but she has good intentions. She always wants to help people, but she and her best friend get stuck in the Taj Mahal and knock over a big, flask, and all kinds of things happen. And her father comes to save her in every situation. And it's a play on my spirit, my heavenly father, and my earthly father, because they both come for me all the time. And Little Bit has all these different friends. She has friends in Saudi. She has friends in all parts of the world. And so I wrote this series, and it's a coloring book, and it's a bunch of books. And that's the great stuff. And then the bad part about it is that I let myself get so distracted and consumed in my work that I never completely took it to the next level. Disney was looking at it for a while as a series. It was being toted by Nickelodeon. All these people wanted to do all this stuff with it. And I let myself get so distracted, and I let myself get so away from abiding, and I let myself get so too consumed in the 1%, and I let myself get so disrupted in other places that Little Bit is big in here and on a flash drive. And I know that there's still room for her in the world, and I'm supposed to do something very big with her. And I just am praying that I get a balance and get back to that place, because as much as we're called to do all of this in the workplace, I know that God also has a calling for me in some of these other works. And I haven't done my best work in getting those done. So that's a Little Bit in Friends. She's pretty dope. So I think that's it.